We were going to call the public safety meeting for the city of Hudson to order. And if I could have roll call.
Alderperson Alms is excused. Alderperson Hall?
Here.
Alderperson Morset?
Here. Number 2 on the agenda. Well, let me back up. Anybody on Zoom? I can only see a couple of you at a time. So if you're going to want to speak on a certain issue, then just chime in or raise your hand. But of course, I won't see it if I can't see all the panels. So just chime in and we'll go from there. We'll try to not walk all over each other while we're talking, but it's going to happen. So number 2 is the minutes of the regular meeting, October 8th, 2020. I do have a correction, Melanie, and it is on page 3 of 3 under the motion recommending installing the mini roundabouts. That was not a recommendation. It was to move it to council for discussion. Any other corrections, Joyce?
No, I'll move to approve with the correction that you made.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Joyce. I don't know, is there anybody on Zoom for the East Canyon Drive issue? Or Jeff, do you know if Bill wanted us to proceed with that? You're on mute.
Balancing computer screens is terrible. I don't know that he wanted. I thought we held this so that he could be here to discuss last I remember. So I would anticipate he would like us to wait.
Let's postpone it and put it on our next meeting.
Okay. Yeah, I talked to Joe Bremer, the resident who had brought this up originally, and I was hoping he would be here, but I don't see him on. So that's fine.
Okay, I'll move the table just to have it formally postponed.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Number 4, discussion, possible action on traffic safety on Carmichael Road. And this issue was brought to our attention by Mr. Jim Gullickson. And Jeff, if you want to start the issue, and then Jim will take any concerns and questions.
Sure. Did everybody get the multiple attachments or add-ons I sent after the agenda was published?
Yeah. Thanks for getting those out right away. There was quite a bit of discussion on Facebook on Hudson word of mouth about this issue.
Yeah, and it's been that way. I mean, since I've been in this community, Carmichael Road has always been an issue. It's been a hot topic. I remember myself and another officer way back in 2012, 2013, 2007, 2008, wrote a letter to the state asking that they reconsider the speed limit on Carmichael Road. Because at that time, the information we were getting was that it was state jurisdiction because it was a alternate route for I-94. And then if that didn't play out, then it was a county highway. But I was in contact with the superintendent of St. Croix County Highway Department, and he provided that jurisdictional allotment, whatever the form is titled, that I sent you with the packet, that basically gives the section of Carmichael Road from essentially the golf course area, the old golf course, all the way down to County Road FF, which is Cooley Trail, is the primary jurisdiction of the city. And I don't see Dean on this.
There's, Jeff, you cut out their jurisdiction of who?
City of Hudson.
Okay, from in front of the golf course. You're not
From,
saying
yeah, essentially from the old golf course property to where where the clubhouse was, where the daycare is located now.
Yeah.
All the way south to County Road double F, which is Cooley Trail.
Right.
Is the primary jurisdiction of the city. Like I said, I don't see Dean on this call, but we have, as the city, we have jurisdiction to do what we want on that road.
I guess that settles that question then.
Well,
that
my
what
biggest issue, for the council members present is whatever clout you have with the state to get their feet moving on redevelopment of that interchange is super important, because that's 36,000 vehicles a day on that road through that interchange it's an astonishing amount of vehicles. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 70 crashes a year, and they're all high-speed crashes.
Well, I can't speak for any
It's a
other
dangerous
council
stretch of road.
I can't speak for any other council members, but I'll tell you from the mayor on down, we have all reached out to our state representatives and pushed to get that taken care of.
Yeah, I know, and I've reached out to our representatives also, especially Shannon. And I don't know whatever poll they have, but if something's, because it's by the time it gets approved, a plan gets approved and it gets on a schedule, it's still 5-6 years out from implementation, and we're running out of time, especially as fast as the south sector there is developing. We're going to run into some major issues.
Right. So
go ahead. Say, Randy. Yeah, I just want to add, and I don't want to, I kind of want to speak for all of public safety, is every time there's an accident, it's putting the paramedics, the firefighters, and the police officers at risk. Because every time we're out there, there's a chance that we're going to get hit by a car because of they're driving by. So, I just want to say it's all public safety is very interested in this, because it's a real danger to us too every time we go out there.
Yeah, that's a good piece. I'm glad you said it, spoke up. Bridget, you probably feel the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. They say that's the most dangerous part about working in EMS, probably maybe fire even, as well as working car accidents on busy roadways. So.
Okay. Mr. Gullickson, do you have anything to add to the conversation? I know you have been, you're volunteering also to reach out to folks, so.
Yeah,
If you state your name and address for the record, please.
my name is James Gullickson, 2308 Rosemary Curve. I'm right by the new ballpark. Been here for 20 years, and I've just seen the accidents go from fender benders to cars folding in half now. The accidents are getting really bad. If you're sitting on Hanley to go north on Carmichael, you're taking a risk every time. People come, they're moving pretty fast when they come by there, 45, 50 miles an hour, and those accidents aren't anything to sneeze at anymore. I think the population has just gone up exponentially over here. You guys know that, you're approving, things, and I noticed that they're talking about putting lights just down from me near that new big business park. You guys are talking, I think is it Mallory? But it all the way from the school to Vine Street is just, to me, it's a risk getting on it. I'll go industrial just to get to County Market because I don't want to deal with Carmichael, risk. Especially when you have kids in the car. So I didn't know you guys have been working on it. I can, if I can help out, let me know what I can do.
Well, anytime you can bend one of these politicians' ears, that would be helpful.
Okay. Who would be the one to reach out to?
Well, Shannon Zimmerman, who is our state assemblyman, and then Rob Shaffold after the first of the year, but otherwise Patty Shatner right now as our state senator.
Okay. I can do that. I didn't know it wasn't under our, Hudson jurisdiction, so.
Right. Well, what Jeff is saying, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, is we actually do have the ability to reduce the speed. And I think at this point in time with our city growing, it is time to lower the speed on Carmichael.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think that
you have the full authority to do that as a city.
Okay. And what do you suggest, Jeff? from what end, how far, the whole thing, to what speed?
Well, therein lies the complication, right? Because there's a section on the north side, north of, let's say, the old golf course, right, where the daycare is, to where the speed limit with the new residential area came in there by the church is now 25. Which, I don't know who did that, if that was the city that did that or if that was the county. But I think that section between the new development there and Vine Street is now city jurisdiction as well. And that's 25 now, and then it goes to 45, and it remains 45. So my recommendation, I suppose, would be to fit with state statute in a commercial district and make it 35. But then what do you do with that quarter-mile section of road that's 45? And we would have to petition the town and get their blessing to do anything with the speed limit on that section.
Why don't we just match it to 25?
That's what I was thinking too, that we should just have it
Is there anything preventing us?
consistent. Mhm.
Yeah. Does the statute prevent us? Or is that the minimum or the max or what during the commercial?
Well, those are the fixed zones that I'm talking about, identified by statute. So residential areas are fixed if they're not posted, right? So that fixed zones talk about speeds in areas that are not posted. So in on a rural road, on a rural highway, if it's not posted, it's 45. And on a highway, if it's not posted, it's 55. In the residential area, if it's not posted, it's 25. Commercial districts are 35. Or fixed. I think 25 might be a little low on Carmichael, just because of the volume of traffic.
Yeah, especially with the traffic lights.
Yeah, and then, therein lies, part of the problem, right? A lot of the times we see when we're investigating these crashes is oftentimes someone fails to stop at a red light, right? Well, they're seeing the light as they're going south.
Further down.
Let's say they're seeing they're seeing the light at Crestview Drive when they're going over the bridge. Well, meanwhile, the light controlling the off-ramp on the south side of the interstate is red. So they go right through it thinking they have a green light, because there's so many lights stacked so close together that it's difficult to see, especially when you get a hill, right? So the lights are different heights.
Is 35 going to make a difference, Jeff? I mean,
well, you can post the speed limit. You can post the speed limit any number of speed that you want, but it's not posting a sign. It's not going to change driver behavior, right?
True.
And the biggest issue we have, the biggest issues we see on Carmichael Road, especially with the crashes, is people failing to yield to yellow lights or red lights, or people failing to yield while making a left-hand turn. Because there's some intersections, and I'll speak for Center Drive because, I don't know who engineered that intersection, but when you're making a left-hand turn onto Center Drive going south onto, when you're driving south on Carmichael, making a left-hand turn on the Center Drive, if there's another car turning left on the Center Drive, like to go toward Home Depot or Menards, it is nearly impossible to see vehicles that are trying to go northbound. And
there's Dean.
once you commit, man, it's too late. I mean, you're all in, So they're reducing the speed limit might help in some of those situations, but the primary reason for crashes on Carmichael Road is the failure to yield while making a left-hand turn and or violation of a red traffic signal.
Well, we did budget in the CIP for turn signals both on Hanley and Center. Hopefully that can mitigate some of that, but it's not going to take care of all of it. It's driver behavior, like you said. Dean, welcome. We are obviously talking about Carmichael.
Yeah, sorry for that snafu. I've finally got on here. So
we're debating on the speed limit on what we could go to. Jeff has informed us that we have jurisdiction over it.
Yeah. So legally we can go down to 25 miles per hour if we wanted to without any recourse or whatever. That being said, I have some concerns about that, mostly because the road is not designed for anything close to 25 miles per hour. So when you sign it down that low, you'll get some people that'll go 25 miles per hour, and then you'll get a lot of people that will continue speeding as they are right now. And then when you get that speed differential, you cause even more problems with.
Isn't there, if I can interrupt for a second, isn't there something in the statute that says if we change the speed limit of a road, we can only do it by 10-mile-an-hour increments?
If there is, I'm not aware of that.
Okay. I thought that
I don't
was
think
in
we've
when we were
ever followed
researching the Birch Drive stuff.
Jeff, I don't think I've ever heard of that or anybody's ever challenged us on that through 15 years.
Okay.
It's probably buried there. I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah.
Anyway, but Dean.
Yeah, so I'm not sure that in this corridor going to 25 miles per hour would help that much. I mean, it could not. I guess it's hard to say for sure, because I could see some inadvertent problems. You know, if we signed it for 25 miles per hour, it might be introducing more problems as well. So if we could, you know, maybe sign it for 35, or, you know, bring it down a little bit, so it's closer to what it's designed for, but also slower, so that there's more reaction ability for people if they're going 35 miles per hour to avoid having a collision there and that kind of thing. So that would be maybe something we could try. I don't know what you guys think, or Jeff thinks, or whatever. I've obviously not discussed it with Jeff or anybody yet, so that's maybe something we could look into.
I think Joyce and I are probably on the same page, but to be prudent, Joyce, I think we should start with 35.
Yeah, I think you're right. You know, what I keep thinking is this type of a road is the most dangerous type of road, because they're going fast. They've got the lights there. You know, if there are any pedestrians, it's really not designed for pedestrians at all. And so we do have an obligation to do something. So I would say, yeah, let's start by dropping it down to 35. I think we should work with the town of Hudson to have it 35 all the way to where it changes to 25, or change it to 25 north of 94, because it's narrow up there.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of people that wait until the last minute to cut over where the right lane ends as you're heading north towards Vine Street. And
well, is
the
that
speed limit there would help too.
Is that something doable, Dean, to split it from that last stoplight north, 25, and then south, 35 from that stoplight? Or do we get in some issues there?
Well, it's already signed for 25, essentially north of the south boundary of Faith Community Church. So essentially along the Bella Rose development, Atwood development, it's now 25 already, but south of there is 45. So, and then south of the Bella Rose development is where it goes into the town. So we'd have to get them on board with whatever we did there.
I think we should go that route, Joyce. I agree with you.
Mm-hmm. All right.
From
So I'll
that
make the
last
motion.
Oh, go ahead.
I'll make the motion that we drop the speed limit to 35 south of I-94, and then that we work with the township to drop the speed limit to 25 north of I-94.
And I'll second. Is there any further discussion on that, Mr. Gullickson or any of the chiefs?
No, I mean, I prefer 25, but whatever you can lower it to, I'd be happy with. So.
Thank you. Any further discussion from chiefs? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Is someone trying to? No?
Okay, I still have one more question. Can anything else be done with the lights in order to improve safety there? The traffic signals?
That's been an issue too forever, Joyce, the
Mhm,
timing
yeah.
of.
Well, I was hopping on, I think, when you guys were talking about the CIP item for changing the signals at Handling Center to arrows, at least on the Carmichael legs. So that obviously will help a lot. You're talking about just the timing with the flow of traffic and stuff. That's what you're thinking about.
Well, you're the expert. I'm just
Okay.
saying, there's concerns because, people can't see when they're trying to make a left turn. There are other issues. What can be done?
Hopefully the arrows will rectify that, hopefully.
Yeah, the arrows will definitely help. Some other things that we could look into doing, we could do a longer all red time between the phases. Just in case there is somebody who runs a red light, if you give another second or something like that to all red, then hopefully they would clear out by the time anybody conflicting would be going through the intersection. So that's something we could look into.
That's a good idea. People are always running so it's awful red when they're that last car goes through.
Yeah. I could discuss this more too with Dick in our Public Works Department. He's our signals guy, to see if there's anything else we could do without physical capital investment or something like that, to see if there's anything we can do there. And if we do lower the speed limit, we probably would want to look at retiming the signals anyway for the progression of people through the corridor and whatnot. So that'll be something I have to discuss with him at that point anyway. So,
Okay.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else off the top of my head right now, but I can definitely look into that and have something for council when we get to that point.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks.
Can I ask for a clarification on that motion, Joyce? Are you talking the traffic signal at the off ramp or the traffic signal at Cooley and the frontage road?
Frontage, I thought.
Yeah, that's fine. Frontage road would be good.
That's where
Okay.
it narrows.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gullickson.
Thank you.
Number 5, discussion possible action regarding stop signs on Cooley Road at 17th Street. This issue was brought back by, well, Joyce, you had brought it up. And I don't know who wants, Dean, you want to take that one? Or who gets this one?
1 second. For some reason, I'm just all up in our, or
You're
discombobulated here today. You said it was the stop sign on 17th and Cooley?
Yes.
Yeah.
We don't have any other information yet. We don't have the traffic counts done at this point, so I would suggest tabling it for at least another month until we can get some more information there.
Okay. I'll move the table for next month.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thanks.
Makes that one the easy one. Okay, number 6, discussion possible action on a request for local traffic only signage on Mayor Road. That was brought to me by a resident up there. He thinks that there's going to be too much traffic up there. I'm hesitant to put anything like this up, and Dean, correct me if I'm wrong, every road belongs to everybody who pays taxes in the city. So we can't really just put local traffic only. It doesn't make sense. And plus the development isn't finished yet. So we need to monitor it and go from there. I don't want to throw any more signs up. Dean.
Yes, thank you, Randy. I agree with you that I really do not want to start getting in the habit of putting local traffic only or no through traffic or something up. Like you said, Randy, the streets, public streets are for public use no matter where people are going and coming from. If this were a private street, that would make more sense, but it's not. Yeah, once you start putting up, say, one of these signs here, then everybody and their cousin is going to want them on their street, and then it's not a good precedent to set, and I would not support putting these up here or really anywhere on our public system.
I'll move we do not do this on Mayor Road.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Number 7, discussion possible action on RV parking on 6th Street near River Road. This was brought to me by Jason Johnson, who lives there. There's an RV that's parked on 6th Street on a blind hill. It's been a safety issue, and I know, Jeff, you've been writing citations or dealing with it, or your officers have. What say you?
Well, yeah, this is not the first RV issue we've dealt with. Joyce is intimately familiar with another one in the area, but in the Fillmore area. And yeah, I mean, we're dealing with it best we can based on the language and the ordinances that we have, and basically that's based on the 24-hour rule, right? So you're going to park on the street. If it's a legal parking spot, the only rule is that you have to move it every 24 hours. The caveat to that is you have to move it an inch, right? You don't even have to move it a certain distance. So, you know, when we get called, we'll mark it, and it hasn't moved, we cite it, and then usually it moves, right? I mean, if it gets to the point where it hasn't moved in a couple of days, then we're talking about towing it to the impound lot, and usually people follow suit beyond that.
So are we looking at a bigger citywide issue with this, not just here?
Yeah, I think it's, I mean, especially, I mean, you're talking especially in the spring, summer, and fall, when people have their recreational vehicles that they're storing at their house for weekend trips and what have you. They store them all winter someplace generally, you know, and they store them at their houses or wherever they can in the summertime when they're using them. So, you know, from one perspective, it's like, okay, I get it, but from these residents' perspective, you know, the eyesore argument doesn't really do a whole lot for me, but the visibility and the safe passage argument, that's where I start to become concerned with it. If two vehicles can't pass by each other,
it narrows the street
apart, right? And then we're talking about a parking restriction issue. So
yeah, we've got a problem on Grandview too, where there's somebody north of Vine that parks their RV every once in a while on
we're not going to go
Grandview.
down that path again, are we?
No, but you know, what are we going to do though? Is there another place where they can put them?
I'm sorry, this one is clearly a safety issue.
But it is for all of these too, because of the visibility.
True. Yeah, true. So what we're looking at is a citywide no RV parking ordinance.
Well, and it would include buses then too. And so because they're the same height, and trucks and semis.
In the meantime, I don't know if we want to tackle this all tonight, because I want to make sure we come up. I think Jeff will have to do some research, or Dean will have to do some research on other cities comparable to ordinances they may have for this type of situation. But I think we need to address this issue now.
How do we address this issue individually without addressing the other issues?
What are our options?
Jeff, yeah, I mean, you can
for that one block of roadway. I mean, our options are to continue doing what we're doing, which is obviously not very effective.
No. Or we put no parking, but I don't want to start doing that, right, Dean? Moving on.
Yeah, yeah, there is, you could sign it like we have other places in town, like a specific parking restriction for RVs in a certain spot, or like we have no trailer parking on First Street, we have no truck parking on other, roads, that kind of thing.
Whose district is this in?
Joyce's?
Sarah's. This is Sarah's.
Maybe see if Sarah could reach out to the fella and see if there's something he'd be willing to concede instead of ramming something down the whole neighborhood's throat.
I actually ways back, I used to live in an apartment there, and it is a nasty hill, and there's been a lot of bike accidents. So there is an issue there, but you're right, we have to do it blanket wide instead of just picking on. To me, it would look like we're picking on this individual. And that would not stand in anything, I don't believe, as far as court-wise, but I don't want to get into that. So I think we need to ask the question before we just railroad something through, if that makes sense. Dean, maybe you can come up with some comparables, or Jeff.
We must not be the only city that's dealing with something like this.
I wouldn't think, especially right now with everybody purchasing RVs and campers and trying to find something to do. So.
Yeah, I can reach out to the state chiefs and see if I can get any answers. No promises. I can ask.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's postpone this one for next meeting or until you've got information, Jeff or Dean. So it doesn't have to be the next one, but because I'm assuming this guy's going to winterize this and it won't be there for the winter.
Right. If it's still there, I'd be surprised.
But we need to do something before spring.
Yeah. So really not a rush, but. So I'll move we postpone it.
I'll second.
So you guys bring it back up. Is that good, Joyce?
Mm-hmm.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. And I think that's okay. Never mind. Discussion possible action on the speed hump policy.
Yay. Finally.
Well, before you get your hopes up, Joyce, I just want to say that, so the last meeting, you guys forwarded this item to the Public Works Committee, and I think I mentioned at that last meeting that we didn't have time to get it on the October Public Works agenda. And we have it on November's Public Works agenda, but that is this upcoming Monday, so we haven't had a chance to discuss it yet. So I would recommend tabling it until we get to that point.
But they can send it right to council then, Joyce, if that's something but we have until spring with this as well.
We what?
Probably have until spring with this as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Has Kathy reviewed it?
Kathy has not reviewed it yet because I wanted to make sure that we got all the commentary first, and if we need to make any, tweaks or something to it based on what Public Works says, I wanted Kathy to just review it once rather than multiple times. So I was going to send it to her as soon as Public Works is done with it. So.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you. You want formal action on it, Joyce? Make sure it comes.
Yes. So,
you move to postpone, or
I'll move to. Well,
it may come out of Public Works right to council, and maybe Dean, you can push them in that direction.
Why don't we? Yeah, let's recommend that Public Works. Let's recommend that Public Works send it to Catherine and then onto council.
Okay.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you. Informational items, and I know there's people that want to talk about number 9A, traffic safety on St. Croix Street, Bear Drive at 11th Street. The back history on that is the last time we had talked about this, we installed an always stop there. And I know Miss Betty Caruso is online that wants to speak to that issue. And I think that is all who wants to speak to that. Joyce, do you want to touch base first, and then we'll have Betty talk?
I've just gotten some feedback that people are concerned about being able to stop if they're coming off of Bear Road into the city. that stopping on the hill when it's icy is going to be a problem. And so we need to address that some way. I think that that's something that Public Works should be involved with too.
Okay. I've received a few emails in regards to it as well, and they're opposed to that very, I think, for that sign coming up the hill.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Betty, do you want to go?
Well, can you hear me, guys?
Yeah,
Yes.
State your name and your address for the record, please.
Sure. Betty Caruso, 1128 3rd Street, Hudson. So my concern, I guess, on this is I was driving out, as I have a couple friends that live out in that area, and I was kind of surprised that it was installed. And my big question was, what was the criteria for it? Because I was just wondering, what did you guys see that I don't see? Because I do frequent that intersection, and of course the drop in speed limits down to 25 kind of shook me for a little bit. Now I'm doing it, but so I was just kind of wondering, what was the criteria? What was the based on for putting in the four-way?
We did receive crash data on that intersection, and it's constantly been brought up to us, Betty, at our meetings about what we can do to address the safety issue at that intersection.
The visibility was an issue too, because you've got a turn there and then people coming off of St. Croix from the east, and then coming down 11th and intersecting. So just was a big concern because of the visibility there.
I guess I didn't see a visibility issue. I think maybe if there was one coming off of Bear Road and then going on to St. Croix, if somebody was parked in that area, maybe possibly, but that could be taken care of with the yellow on the curbing. But as far as crash data, Randy, I'm just surprised because I have never seen one there, nor have I, and I frequent it, like I said. And so what is the crash data? How many times has there been a crash?
I don't have that in front of me. Jeff, do you know offhand?
I don't recall it being very many.
No, I don't think it was the crash data. It was the analysis that Dean did of the stop and yield policy.
Yeah, so if I may chime in here. So looking at that intersection, there wasn't a large amount of crashes, if I recall correctly. It was somewhere in the below single digits of crashes over a period of 3 to 5 years. The issue with that intersection, so it's mostly for people who are not familiar with the area. If you come up to that intersection, say you're coming off of 11th Street and you want to turn either left or onto Bear Drive, like it's a skewed turn there or whatever, you might not know who has the right of way because it's a 5-way intersection. And then you've got the visibility part with it kind of goes hand in hand with the concerns that there's a grade, coming up from the railroad tracks to that intersection that kind of goes both ways, where you might not be able to see somebody coming up from Bear Drive if you're on 11th there, or 11th from the north, or St. Croix from the east. So safety concerns can exist even without crash history. If the geometry is there to show, like in other situations, if you have skew intersections, you can know that there's a higher likelihood of having crash problems at those intersections, particularly if you're not familiar with the intersection. So an all-way stop was one of the options that we considered at that intersection to kind of clarify, who has the right of way. So an all-way stop, essentially everybody else to stop, and then you have to take turns, so who stopped and who goes, that kind of thing. The other alternative we looked at were kind of separating 11th Street and St. Croix to the east from the rest of the movements. So you kind of taking the Bear to St. Croix main movement out of the intersection. And then another option we looked at was restricting left turns, from Bear Drive onto 11th Street to kind of minimize the amount of potential conflict points. And then, so those are a couple of the other options we considered, and there wasn't support for either of those, at least starting out. So the all-way stop was the one that was chosen for this intersection by City Council. So
Well,
Yeah, the other, I'm sorry, Betty, you can go ahead.
okay. Well, what I was going to say is I don't think anything's changed in the 40+ years that I've been driving there. As far as, it's like you said, collisions or trying to understand the intersection. I think if you don't understand the intersection, you shouldn't be driving. It's minor in the realm of life, I'll tell you, but I was just kind of wondering more basically about policy and criteria. It seems like if somebody complains, we put a Band-Aid on it or we go fix it for that one person when it doesn't seem necessarily like it had to be done. And I guess that was more like of a policy question on it. I can stop there. It's not a big deal. I think you will have an issue with salting that hill and coming on that, going on to St. Croix from there. But I just think that it's sometimes, whether it's the speed bumps you guys are looking at or whatever, it just doesn't seem like we're addressing things because one or two person in the last 40 years have complained. So I guess that's what my worry is.
Betty, that's not true over the last 40 years. It's been a constant issue with people, not just the same people either. You are familiar with that intersection just like I am and other folks, so it's not an issue for us. But the amount of people that we have now moved into the area towards the Burkhardt, towards the railroad tracks, and then up and by the middle school, it has grown huge. And some of them are unfamiliar with it. We can only educate. We can't obviously tell people how to act, or if you know what I mean, but there's been more complaints than you realize, and there's been more accidents than you realize there, regardless if you go through there every other day.
Well,
sorry.
I'm sorry, but 600 cars, basically 300 cars each way a day, to me, I don't think that's huge. But and I don't want to shoot myself in my foot, because I can tell you more on the 3rd Street in St. Croix. There's a heck of a lot more than 600 cars that go through there every day, and I don't want a 4-way stop going on there. So,
I hear you.
Just saying, just kind of wondering about it, and I respect that if you're getting complaints on it because there is issues there, fine, put it in there. But sometimes it just seems that for 40 years it's functioned properly, and nothing's actually built out there in the last 20 years. I mean, once
Betty,
you got
what's your solution out there, if I may? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
What's my solution?
Yeah, what do you think we should do?
I think what you guys did by turning that speed limit down to 25 for that area was very, very smart. Not that I like it, but it's smart. And
did you get a ticket?
You can talk to your dad, Randy. So, but I do say that, the effectiveness of that is good. But because I did get a ticket on Laurel, and you know what? That was very effective. I don't speed on Laurel anymore. And I guarantee you, I don't speed on 9th Street anymore. And the best thing I think you guys have done is put in that speed sign on Vine Street, because every time that thing flashes, we purposely don't speed. It's because we're used to the area and we're familiar with it, and we're just driving. I don't think people are tending to speed, but
They're not paying attention. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that flashing sign really improved my driving. And I think that could be a solution for you on 9th Street if what your real concern is in speeding there. But that's, you guys make the decisions, you make the big stuff. This one, I say remove the stop signs. I didn't see there was being an issue, but you guys have to deal with it. If you have an issue there, then you do what you think you need to do. But I was kind of more concerned about policy and one person complaining and getting it answered by that. So
yeah, all along, Betty, and that's a heck of a good point. And I bring it up almost every time we meet, that we have a policy, so we're not signing the death out of the city. I mean, so it's on the back of our minds, and we're getting better at it. Instead of knee-jerk reacting to every little complaint we have, we're trying to narrow it. So that's a very good point.
The other thing that I was going to tell you, Betty, is that, well, okay, so first of all, the other recommendations, I would have gotten so many complaints about those because it would have meant that a lot of people would be driving out of their way in order to avoid that. I mean, they would have to go through that intersection, but they'd have to go a roundabout way to get to it in order to get through in the direction that they were going. And that would be so confusing to people who aren't familiar with Hudson, and even to those who are familiar with Hudson would be really irritated. So I would have gotten a lot of calls on that one if we had gone with one of those solutions. The other thing that I was going to tell you is that I have gotten thank yous for that four-way stop, but I am getting, people concerned about being able to stop at that stop sign coming off of Bear Road. So, unfortunately, there isn't a one-size-fits-all solution for any of these things.
Well, we have to monitor it. We just put it in, and Betty is the first local one to come to us with the issue.
Yeah.
Besides emails that I received, and you, and I'm sure Sarah probably got it. Everybody probably might have gotten it. So do we let it play out? And I guess that's a question to Dean. Do we let it play out longer before we make an adjustment? We don't have enough data to understand if it's working.
Yeah, and I should check with Mike Mraz since we've had a few snowfalls now. Unfortunately or unfortunately, we have had some opportunity to see if that roadway is able to be cleared adequately for people to get up there. So I can check with them to see if they've been able to do that, and I might make a point of the next time it snows to try to go through there myself and just take a look to see if see how it's doing out there. I will say one thing I forgot to mention before is that one of the rationales behind doing something there is because of the amount of crossing pedestrian traffic for the high schoolers as well. So I forgot to mention that before. For on foot traffic, and then yeah, I mean, it's definitely, like Randy said, it's definitely something I'd like to just keep monitoring, and I think it's easy enough to just do something and then forget about it until something happens or whatever, but it's, I think, probably a better state of practice to do something, make measurements and observations and tweak if needed, that kind of thing. So that's kind of where I at least am hoping that we take this issue and other issues to see if this is the right solution or not. So.
And Betty, Dean is our in-house traffic expert. if you were wondering who he is, if you didn't
I'm the city engineer.
So every traffic item we blame Dean. So.
Good to have one of those. So yeah. I do appreciate you guys listening, and keep up the work. Good work.
Thanks, Betty.
Thanks, Betty.
So I think it's time for it's for us to monitor it and get more feedback and data and see, did we do the right thing?
So bring it back next month, or wait till January, or when would be a good time to bring it back?
Maybe January, so we get a full month of winter in there.
Okay.
If that's working or not. If we have to have a special meeting and do something different, we go right to council or have a special meeting.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll make the motion. We bring it back in January then.
Is that a motion? A second. Dean, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say that if we're having, lots of problems there, I'm pretty sure you guys will hear about it. Or I'll hear about it, or Mike will hear about it.
It'll be on Facebook.
Yeah, so I do think that we'll have some information if it isn't working out for sure, and if it is working out, you probably hear crickets. So, but we'll definitely just keep our eyes open on that too. So.
And the big focus is on the hill, the Bear Road, south and east or west or whatever you want to call it, south. Okay. All in favor for January's meeting, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Betty. Okay, hot airfare. I see that Ruth and Evie are on. Who wants to go?
This is Ruth. I guess it'll be me. Ruth Peterson, Hudson Hot Airfare, 735 11th Street in Hudson. I think that's still my address.
Aren't you in Arizona?
Yes, I am. So that's why I think it's still my address. But I do have an address in Arizona for a month. So, you know, what we're looking at and what we'd like to just talk to you about and some of the things that we're doing is we're talking about doing a pop-up balloon launches for hot airfare and doing a drive-through moon glow or field of fire. We're still in the logistics part of it and where we're going to do these things from. But I have talked to the chief, both chiefs, St. Martin and Jeff, and they're willing to work with us again. And we really appreciate that. Evie, you want to add whatever?
Well, just saying that we appreciate the city working with us. We've all probably heard the word pivot more times than we've wanted to in the last 6 months. And so we're putting together a schedule for the event. Hot airfare is not going to be canceled. We're learning how to pivot from live activities to virtual activities. So have your pets ready for a virtual pet costume contest. River Channel is working with us to help us provide some fun, entertaining things for the weekend, and we appreciate that very much too. The balloons are the big part of the weekend, and we have pilots who are interested in coming. We're talking to people literally around the country, and our balloon pilot committee looking at what are proven to be safe protocols for doing the things that need to be done, and at the same time providing some entertainment for the locals, the visitors that come to town. We're trying to do things that can provide economic impact to our businesses who are our sponsors and do it safely. I think Hudson has a pretty clean track record thus far for doing as much as they can to be safe and pivoting from in restaurant eating to carry out and outdoor. So we're being very cognizant of what the image needs to be for our community for welcoming visitors, but at the same time providing a safe environment for them. So as Ruth said, the logistics are the issue. There was a drive-through hot air balloon moon glow field of fire down in Kentucky a couple weeks ago, and we were watching very closely the conversations that were happening on Facebook as this event was taking place, and identified some things that we were assuming, but we heard in real time. Traffic issues, communications issues. Didn't ever really hear much for safety issues, rather convenience. How to educate the consumer as to what's going to happen and then make it happen the way we think it's going to happen. So we appreciate your help, and Ruth is our lead person. She knows the logistics part of it better than anyone, and we'll be relying on city expertise to help us make this happen.
Well, I appreciate you guys taking the balloon by the horns and doing this and keeping it going. It really, we need this stuff, and hopefully we can do it safely, and it's a success for our businesses in town and just everybody to enjoy something different. Shut off the news and get out there and do something.
I know people by February, they'll be very anxious to have something that to do and enjoy. So I'm sure that whatever is done will be well attended.
Nice
And
work,
we,
Ruth.
we keep saying at our meetings that our biggest challenge and our biggest problem is going to be our success. And so we've had committee members attend some drive-through events. St. Paul Winter Carnival is going to be doing some drive-throughs this year to minimize crowds. We've
Bentonville,
had,
Booth.
yeah, and
Somerset.
so we've kind of seen where the potholes are in the road. We try to smooth things out before we have our event. So we'll see.
We appreciate you guys' work. Keep us in tune. Go
Randy,
ahead.
this is Scott. I just want to thank Evie and Ruth because they're always so proactive on keeping us in the loop. We're talking about this in the beginning of November, several months ahead, and they're always a joy to work with. And I really appreciate their thoughtfulness of keeping us apprised of what's happening. So I really want to thank them.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it. I usually have a number of conversations with the chief between now and February, and then he kind of kicks me out of his office and says, "See you next year." So, but it's
Sounds
great.
about right.
What?
That sounds about right.
Yeah, you've done the same thing. And
because you guys are always asking for money.
you know, we always need money, you know that. But we do really do appreciate the cooperation from Public Works, Public Safety, every department that we work with the city. We really appreciate it. And we will keep you totally informed on what we're doing and how we're doing it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Randy, your letter is in the mail asking for money.
Yeah.
Are we going to need to get everything pretty much locked up for the December meeting, or can we wait until the January meeting on the logistics part of it?
Gets a little dicey if there's something new that we're going to have to try to understand. I mean, I don't think there's going to be an issue, Jeff. Traffic wise.
Yeah, no, the plan that they've outlined to me, I'm pretty confident we can make that happen pretty easily.
So I think January would be all right.
We have, we're having a meeting this next week, and I will stay in touch with everyone to make sure that you're on the same page we are, and if we have to make changes. But we do appreciate all your help.
Great. Thank you, you guys. Stay safe.
Go back to the sun now, guys. Thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Number 9C, traffic analysis on Colonial Drive. Jeff?
Yeah, so this came about with the resident asking, hey, why are there no speed limit signs in my neighborhood? People seem to be speeding through here in a very bad way. So we did some analysis, brought it to public safety. I think you decided to put the stop signs up, or the speed limits, sorry, not stop signs, speed limit signs up. And I had the analysis ready for your review on this one to see if there was anything else maybe you wanted to do. From my perspective, I don't have the data in front of me because I forgot that thumb drive at home, but or at work. But I believe it was something like 2,300 vehicles or something in a 6-day period, which is it's not heavy traffic flow by any means. And I think the average speed there was 23 miles an hour with a couple of outliers. Not a miraculous speed issue. We've definitely seen more severe speed issues in other areas of the city, and volume issues. So I don't know if Dean wants to speak to it if he's still on, or what your thoughts as a committee are on it.
Really have anything to add? I think probably what we did is a good step for right now, and I guess we like we were saying with the other alternative, we can keep our eyes on it and see if there's anything else we need to do. But for right now, I think I wouldn't say we need to do anything else there at this point.
I would agree. The one thing we just have to watch is it is a cut through for people to avoid the stop light for whatever reason. But ultimately, all these speeding issues will come down to enforcement too, instead of signing everything. So I think we should just monitor it and move it forward. And when it becomes an issue again, we'll bring that up.
Yeah, and there's other options like we did with, Summer Street, what we're trying there, and what we did on 17th Street, right, with the speed trailer. I mean, we have, like Miss Caruso was saying, if you're driving down the road and you're not really paying attention, when you have a big sign flashing your speed at you, it really gets your attention if you're going a little too fast. So that speed trailer, I believe we have one, right, and it can only stay out for a certain number of hours before the battery needs to be brought back in and recharged and whatnot. But that does have an impact, putting that thing out there for people to see it and make people pay attention to their speeds. So, there's a variety of different things that we can try before we just start signing everything, or reducing speed limits, or putting speed humps in, or putting stop signs in. You know what I mean? So.
Well, I think that it would be worthwhile to plan to do another black box count in the same place in the spring, just to see if we get the same data, or similar data, and then take it from there. Because there's quite a few cars that are going 31 to 35 in that area.
Yeah, and to be honest, when I was out there putting the box out, one of the residents came out and said, I think it was right at the intersection of Colonial and Lincoln is where I was putting this, maybe just west of that intersection. And I wasn't here when this was there, but Randy, you might know that there used to be a stop sign there, a three-way stop.
I don't recall that.
Okay.
I
But
don't.
he was tickled that we were there collecting data and trying to address the issue. So it was more than the one resident up there that had the complaints, that voiced the complaints to us. There were people coming out of the woodwork when I was up there saying how appreciative they were that the city was looking at it. So I'm not going to say it hasn't been an issue, but we'll definitely try and keep an eye on it and do what we can do.
I think that's one area. If that speed bump policy goes through, that'd be a classic place to put those. If it's somebody beeping.
Well, that's. I think my granddaughter is playing with our phones.
Oh. Okay, so we clear on what we're doing there then? Yeah? Okay. Number 10, EMS, Fire Department, Police Department updates. EMS, Bridget, you are on up.
Hey guys, so I don't have too much for you tonight. Just kind of update on what's going on with us. We've continued to be busy. We're running about 10 to 15% over what we would normally run for call volumes. We're seeing about 20 to 25% of our patients are showing some sort of possible COVID symptoms. So we do feel like that's a contributing factor, but not the only driving factor of the call volumes either. I think we're just in general, it's been busy. From a staffing standpoint, we're doing really well. We do have a couple of medics that did end up getting sick from COVID that are out right now, but it only took us a couple hours to fill the shifts that we needed to fill to get back up to fully staffed. And we have, with just like the surge in COVID cases and kind of the impact on that, on the healthcare systems, and knowing that a lot of our EMS partners are having staffing issues because of their own staff that are out with either COVID or quarantine related issues, we have brought back our standby schedule that we did earlier in the year towards the end of spring when this kind of started. So we have a 6th ambulance staffed on our schedule. from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. from now until, it's not completely full yet, but we're scheduling it until December 13th at this point. So for the next, it was a total of 5 weeks. We started it on Monday. And the goal or the point of that ambulance is obviously to flex up in staffing if we do get busy and we need to have more ambulances on the street. But also to have kind of people on standby or on call if we do have more medics that get sick or need to be out on quarantine, we can kind of quickly turn to somebody to fill those shifts right away instead of going through what we usually do, which is just kind of paging it out and seeing if we can get someone to come in. So so it's been busy, but things are going well and we're doing good. Our team is handling it all quite well, and just kind of figuring it out as we go a little bit. But
okay, thank you. Any questions? Okay, thank you, Bridget.
Yeah.
Fire department, Scott, can you talk, or you got somebody?
Yeah, I can. I'm not going to say too much, but the bad news is my voice is starting to come back. So enjoy me not talking a lot, Randy. Basically been busy. I just really want to thank all of the firefighters for really sticking it out with all this stuff going on. We've had our share of the COVID stuff and in and out, and they just keep responding, and you know, the bell rings, they're there. So really thank them. Continue to talk to our regional fire departments just to make sure that we always are covered if, you know, we are shorthanded. So that's kind of an update there. Looking at possibly putting a few more people on after the first of the year. We just had a quick posting for experienced firefighters. We had a pretty good response, so that's kind of a update.
All right, thank you. Any questions? All right, police department updates. Jeff.
Not really any major updates. You guys got an email from me today, you know, just sharing Bridget's email that she sent me about some of our guys' work. And over the last 6 months, we've had a lot of that. And with us not being able to do presentations at council, we've just kind of been doing them at roll calls and whatnot. But I think it's important that you guys at least are aware of the type of work that our first responders and partners and EMS and fire are doing out there in the midst of all this, when everybody is kind of laid up out of work and at home and hanging out and not really paying attention to what's going on outside. There's still a lot of good work being done by our public safety members, and I'm probably going to dig those out and send them to you, because I think it's important that you guys understand the kind of work that they're doing. So
Absolutely, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
There were some questions about sharing that stuff with officer names and things on social media, and I don't know if I'm there yet. I'm still a little skittish about social media and how messages can be turned. So we'll start probably with you as the council and the Public Safety Commission, and we'll see how that goes. But that's really my biggest update, is just trying to be better at sharing that stuff with you guys.
All right, thank you. Hey, Bridget, a question for you, and maybe you can't answer it or don't want to. Are we full at our Hudson Hospital in our beds with the COVID stuff?
You know, I don't know the specific numbers for Hudson. I know some of the other numbers in the area, and I know that most people are feeling pretty full.
Okay.
Full kind of becomes a relative term because you have the physical space, but then you have the staffing. So a lot of times hospitals will say they're full and they start sending patients to other hospitals. And it's not necessarily the physical space, is that they don't have the staff to care for those patients because they're short of nurses. So that term full kind of changes really quickly, and it's not necessarily based on the volume of patients. But I know for sure Lakeview was 75% full as of this morning. I'd imagine Hudson's in a very similar boat. I think Richmond is in a similar boat as well. So fairly full, but not like bursting at the seams quite yet.
Well, hopefully not, but
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other items for future agendas going forward?
I can't think of anything.
All right, I will entertain the motion.
Move to adjourn.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you.